Now, we love our clover hunting plots, and they seem to attract a lot of attention for the entire season, even during the winter. And it's interesting because we have clover that didn't attract any during the winter, and we have some that attracted a lot during the winter. Our clover hunting plots, I actually have the numbers right here because we just did a crop feeding circles breakdown of all our hunting plots here on the property. And we have 2.25 acres of clover. We had 3.5 acres of our fall greens, power greens, and 7.25 acres of brassica and 6.75 acres of corn. Out of that 2.25 acres of clover, totaling about 9 plot areas, we had a lot of activity, and I'd say it's more consistent activity over a long period of time. Other things like the brassica, like the corn, and like the fall power greens are hit really heavy at times. You can imagine when that corn was standing and there was actually appreciable corn on the plot and it was super cold and snowy in December or January or February, got hit really, really hard more than anything else. Brassica got hit the hardest during the winter overall, but clover held its own. Now, the clover hunting plots we really like. To me, there's a great way to seed it. Frost seeding is perfect. The only problem with frost seeding is you have to worry about summer drought. So we like planting our clover, if at all possible, during August with a cool season annual. Throughout the last 25 years, I've used rye, oats, various brassicas, wheat to establish that clover, and then I get rid of whatever else is left in the spring, namely the wheat or the rye, and then you end up having that clover grow. And a lot of times we're frost seeding at that point. That's my favorite time to frost seed. However, there's a good time to frost seed right now if you want to take a chance on that drought going into the summer. That best time to me is right before you expect spring green up. And it might be that, right now it's middle of March. I would say we'd have spring green up sometime in early April, mid-April at the latest, even with a cold spring. So I want to be frost seeding towards the end of March, first part of April. Now, you don't need to break down that seed like you do bad switchgrass seed. We don't sell bad switchgrass seed. We don't, so you don't have to go through this this period of stratification. Like if you have a lot of hard count seed, probably a lot cheaper price, you have to buy twice as much, but you have to break that seed down. Clover doesn't work that way. And so I like putting that on the ground when it's still a little tacky, maybe just had some snow that melted, maybe just had a rain. You throw it on there right before spring green up, and it's amazing how when you get into that spring green up, how that clover just begins to take off. It germinates extremely well, and as those soil temperatures climb, then that clover really, really pops fast. It's one of the easiest seeds to get going. Now, you can go out there and throw it out right now. It's mid-March. You can throw it out on snow, on frozen ground. I don't recommend snow because I don't want it washing off somewhere. But there's people that say that having it go through a lot of frost or freeze can kill it. I have not seen that personally, and I've been frost seeding clover for 25 years, even in the UP in Michigan. And we can even go back, it was 98, so really about 27 years I've been frost seeding clover. And I frost seeded in the middle of snow, in the middle of icy fields where we still had a lot of frost and thaw and freeze to go through in the UP, and I've never had any problems at all. In different types of soil, different regions, different snow melts, different conditions, different amounts of frost in the ground, over a huge sampling size, never had any problems. It's not a bad idea to frost seed right now. We frost seeded pretty early last year. But again, I like waiting until right before spring green up. That seems to be the perfect time because you're not gaining anything by the seed being on the ground for a month or two. Why clover? I love establishing clover in hunting plots because the clover is growing in May, June, July, August, stops growing sometime around in September. You get that first frost. Every bite is not replaced. We're using small clover plots, and those deer hit it randomly during the summertime, especially those mature bucks. They know it's there. They hit that clover plot. It establishes a pattern of use. And if you see them during the summertime on there during the daylight, they feel comfortable hitting that plot. They're probably going to be back during the daylight sometime late September, October, or November. What we find is when we're only planting our hunting plots in clover, then we have the complement of a big plot somewhere else. I call them holding plots because you want deer to go there, hold until dark, and then leave to a destination. Destination plot on the neighbors, destination ag field, wherever they want to go after dark, that's where they go to their destination. The hunting plot represents just a pass through on the way to somewhere else. And so that's why we only plant the clover in our small hunting plots. We don't have any clover planted in Wisconsin, for example, because we only have large holding plots there. So no clover plots. We don't have room for it over there. I want clover plots off to the side. We do have a couple corners or points planted for turkey hunting in the spring. Outside of that, though, we have those small hunting plots that represent just a window into the glimpse of a movement between bedding, going through that clover plot, and finally to the hunting plot. You'll find that mature bucks will bed close to a small hunting plot. They will not bed close to a big hunting plot. In fact, they'll bed typically 4 or 5 times further away from a big food source, big ag field, big food plot, than they will a small hunting plot, meaning a 1/4 acre or less of a hunting plot. So it represents that great pass-through, establishes a pattern of use. And what we find, because we have the complement of, we have 2 1/4 acres of clover plots that I added up over the last couple days, and then we have about 19 acres of food plots. So those 2 1/4 acres are just a part of the picture. We have almost 17 acres of other things in there, other plantings. And so it's important to have those other plantings so the deer are going through the hunting plot to get to somewhere else. So clover can be a great hunting plot planting. Our clover plots are designed with my 25 years of research. We have alfalfa taking over a top layer, 4 different clover varieties for any soil, birchfoot trefoil. Chicory is so critical for shading it from and nursing it along during summer drought. The bottom line is we're typically planting that with our 365 blends in August, where we have that cool season cover crop. It gets a great shot of moisture in the fall, another great shot of moisture in the spring. And then by the time summer drought comes the following year, that clover can withstand it. However, we try it every once in a while. My biggest crop failures overall in all of food plotting going back to 1995 has been spring planted clover because of drought. Other than that, it germinates well. You still have to take care of some weeds. We typically mow to take care of weeds, and then we'll hit it with clethodim, a grass-specific herbicide for grass. And that does a great job, especially when you have a good clover mix that's designed to take over that area. So great time coming up to frost seed. For most of you, when you see this, by the time you see this video, it's going to be about that time. I'm not frost seeding on snow. So for you, those over in Vermont and Maine and New York that keep piping in that you have tons of snow on the ground still, northern Michigan, up in those areas, Steve, up in that location, northeast or northwest Michigan, I know you have a few feet of snow still. So it'll be a little bit of a wait, hopefully April, because I'm going to be in that area for clients in Gaylord in April. So I'm hoping I'm not wading through 3 feet of snow like I am in April sometimes up there, hoping we get a good snow melt. So great time for frost seeding clover, coming very soon. And oh, by the way, they're great for those small hunting plots. And if anything, if you're just frost seeding those small hunting plots this year, not as much risk as establishing several acres. And one of the other reasons we don't plant those big acreage clover plots, even when they get decent use, for one, there's other plantings that get heavier use throughout the hunting season, depending on their time period. But two, I don't want giant clover fields holding a bunch of does and fawns all summer long that stay into the fall to where we build that doe factory. We don't need any more deer here. We're at a good balance. I don't want to have soybeans, clover on the property and increase that overall number that we have to take care of. In fact, one of the best ways to balance is to not have a bunch of clover. And the 2 1/4 acres out of 19 that we have isn't really going to be a huge summer draw, especially when we're surrounded by alfalfa. It's just not going to happen. So it's another reason we don't plant giant clover plots. And if we wanted to raise our deer population, we certainly would. But other than that, consider frost seeding some clover very soon. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video all the way to the end. I really want to remind you about our food plot seed company, Pure Wildlife Blends. I even have clients that don't realize we have our company, but the food plot seed blends are flying off the shelves, and that's a great thing, and that always happens this time of year. I encourage you to check out everything. Again, purewildlifeblends.com, links in the description. But at the same time, we always carry inventory. So if you are the type that puts it off to the last minute, order it in July, we'll have it. But in the meantime, check out purewildlifeblends.com. We have a lot of different seed blends, pollinator blends, wildlife blends, switchgrass, everything that you need to plant great food plots and great wildlife plantings this season.